It's alive! It's alive! AI is alive with bias. Welcome to Asmith Podcast. I'm Kimberly McNabb.
And I'm Barrett McNabb. It's been in the news, if you haven't been living under a rock. Google's Gemini has absolutely been a debacle, an absolute debacle. It had immense amounts of bias that were in there. So anytime you wanted to type in give me a picture of a white person, it would come back and say, look, that's, we can't.
People who can't dance.
Yeah, exactly. People, shouldn't be defined by their characteristic of their skin, and I can give you examples of other people. But then if you typed in, give me a picture of a black person, bam, it's right there.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem at all.
And a lot of the issues that were going on, as well as historical figures. Give me a photograph of George Washington. And
He's a black guy.
the AI would replace George Washington's face with a African-American face or a Latino face. And it was just down the line. So this is the new battlefield, and conservatives are currently losing, and it's the battle for information. The battle for information. The Supreme Court just heard oral arguments this week on big tech and whether or not they were censoring conservative voices. And so the argument was that is organizations like Facebook, /Meta, Instagram, Snapchat, things like that, are they a public forum where they, or a newspaper where they can choose what to publish, or are they more like a telephone system or a telegraph system where information just flows through the system? And the difference between that is one you can control and one you can't. Could you imagine if AT&T was able to censor sentences that they didn't like as you were having a conversation with your best friend?
Or say, oh, this is a conservative, I'm going to drop their call.
I'm going to drop their call, right? So AT&T can't do that. But Facebook can limit and or say that whatever speech that you say is against their policies and drop your speech. And the thing is they get to choose their own policies. So Texas and Florida have enacted laws that say that these big tech can't do that. But here's the big problem is it's already being done on a larger scale with Google. Can you imagine all of the searching that you do is going to be bias and has the potential to be bias? Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google and Alphabet, has recently released a statement concerning that Gemini debacle, saying that the tool's response were offensive to people and had shown bias. But here's the thing. The bias comes from the person who programs it.
Yeah, AI is only as good as the person programming it.
And so who are the people at Google that get to choose?
Yeah, so if they're left-wingers, I mean, I have suspected this for a while because, like, I would read something on, Fox News or Town Hall or whatever, and then I'll think about it later, and I'm like, what website did I, read it on? And so I'll just Google it, and you can't find Fox News listed under the Google search results for like at least 2 pages. Or if I read something on Fox News and I wanted to see what other websites said about the topic, I would, again, Google the same topic and still notice that Fox News,
right,
or any right-leaning source would show up in the top 2 pages of Google search results. It would always be like, no matter what, just NBC, CBS, NBC would pop up first. So I suspected this for a while. But, they just think we're stupid. I mean, these tech companies really think we're stupid. And I think they knew it was biased when they put it out. They just wanted to see how loud we would scream and moan about it.
Right.
And kind of gauge and tweak from there. That's my
Well, I mean,
little conspiracy theory.
90% of all political contributions from Google go to Democrat parties and candidates. And so, I mean, if it was a little bit different, if it was like maybe 60-40 or 70-30, but 90% go to Democrat, which leads me to believe that there is a left-leaning bias at Google. Now, everybody laughed at me when I said that because of course there is, but still it provides evidence that there is a left-wing bias. I mean, the same CEO said when in 2016 when Donald Trump won the election that Google was going to invest heavily into AI so that they could combat misinformation. And the problem with that is if you're going to be a warrior to combat misinformation,
anything you don't like is misinformation.
Yeah, anything you don't like, which only 10% of the people at Google apparently are conservatives, anything that you don't like is automatically misinformation. Again, whenever you're winning an argument against a liberal, the easy button always comes out. You're a racist. You're a bigot. There is no argument to be made. But if you can control the narrative, and you have social media to do it, and you have search to do it, it's literally a information war, and only one person or one side gets to choose what the information is.
Well, when I heard about all the things that people tried to do in Google Gemini, like picture George Washington, a picture of the founding fathers, a picture of Nazis. No, not one white person. Of course, now they've kind of shut it down to where we can't go and look. I'm like, Napoleon Dynamite riding a polar bear. I wonder what that would come out like.
I'd love to see that. I paid money to see that.
It'd be like Shaquille O'Neal riding a grizzly bear or something. But when I heard about this, I was like, crap, man. My mom just sold her house, and I told her I didn't want all those 1982 Encyclopedia Britannicas. I wish I had gotten them now because they're going to revise history. And, I'm going to go from wanting to be tidying up with Marie Kondo on Netflix to hoarders. Right. And I think this whole debacle just increased the prices on 1998 CD-ROMs of Encyclopedia Britannica that are listed on eBay. Those people get to increase their prices now,
because and the reason we're saying that is there has been
they're changing history.
They're changing history. You go to Wikipedia and you can see people editing and changing history to fit whatever the narrative is that you want. So can you imagine going back and looking at some of those old encyclopedias? Those things are gold mines now.
Yeah. And we're not the only people suspecting a revisionist history. First of all, if you want a revisionist history, just look at Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin. He has his own version of Russian history. But also Barry Weiss, who founded the Free Press. She used to work for New York Times, so she's not some, cyber warrior. She delivered the State of World Jewry lecture at, sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, 92Y. It was a big speech. She says, quote, by leftists who glorify terrorists and by rightists who glorify tyrants, by technology companies that revise history and tell us it's justice. And there's so much truth in that. Just think. 1619 Project, revisionist history.
Right.
We're not the only ones who are aware.
Yeah, and the thing I think is as companies got more powerful, and there is grumblings of monopolies and threats to break up Meta and things like that. But I remember when the internet was kind of in its infancy, and I was in college, there were a number of search sites. Like Google wasn't the end all be all. I remember AskJeeves.com.
Dating ourselves here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's been changed now to ask.com, but AskJeeves.com and other things. Internet Explorer wasn't the main search or internet access portal point. Netscape was the big one, and it was in competition with Internet Explorer. And I preferred Netscape anyway to access the internet. And the vast majority of the internet that I had to do, I had to go onto the college campus and log on to the computer labs computers in order to get on the internet. But still, I think when Google became the dominant search engine by far, it is literally the 800-pound gorilla in the room. It now gets to dictate. And does the wealthy conservative movement need to start creating their own tech?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're already getting conservative banks. I think Larry Elder and John Rich are part of it. Sorry, I forget the name of it. And then you have Public Square, I believe, is the conservative alternative to Amazon. So yeah, search engine. Let's go.
Yep.
Maybe Elon can help us out with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Elon, do an AI.
Exactly. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that he hasn't. I mean, he's involved in so many other companies, but honestly, I wouldn't even necessarily enjoy a conservative AI, but I certainly don't want a liberal biased AI. What I'd love to see is a neutral AI, something that can be used by everybody, and it doesn't have a political slant to it. Honestly, Google needs to hire conservatives and partner with liberals so that they can create neutrality.
Well, that's going to be really hard to do because I don't think they're at the point of having mostly liberals on their staff. I think they're at the point of having leftists.
Yeah,
mostly leftists
that's
on
true.
Their staff. What I would want is, at the bare minimum, when we're talking about history, it should be like opening something from 1982, not 1984.
Right.
But, 1982 Encyclopedia Britannica, and it should be the same. The book should be the same as what's on your historical websites.
No, I agree. There was no bias that was going on in those. It was, the old BBC, the sky is blue, water is wet, and moving on to the next story in the dry BBC way. Even, BBC is starting to get a slant on it as well. And that really saddens me because the BBC was usually the gold standard for just that stuffy, dry British, news anchor that is just literally just saying the facts and then moving on to the next fact. Mm-hmm. And it has saddened me. So this is the new battleground that has been identified. Turns out it's been a battleground for a long time, but the information space battleground, while not new, is finally being realized by conservatives that there is a problem and that bias is very real. Thank you so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all of the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.